to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, bring you a Football Game Plan 2014 draft special. We're taking a look at our January mock draft, which is a 2-rounder. So let's get this video kicked off the right way by taking a look at the #1 overall selection, the Houston Texans. Let's first take a look at some mock draft rules. And rule number 1, the picks are based off as if I were the GM, which means if I'm picking for each one of these football teams, these are the players that I will select based off what I perceive to be team needs and also weaknesses on this roster. And rule number 2, my final prospect rankings will be complete the first week of February. So this right here doesn't reflect where I rank these prospects, but these are a pretty good idea of who I think is pretty good football players that should do well at the next level. And third, calm down. This is only a mock draft. Guys get bent out of shape for mock drafts. This is only a mock draft. It's all in fun, and it gives you a pretty good idea of who are some of the top college football players in the country. The Houston Texans own the #1 overall selection, and this is a no-brainer. They have to go with quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater out of Louisville is as polished of a player as Andrew Luck. You can quote me on that. This is a guy that has very minimal holes in this game, and this is a guy that should do fine down there in Houston, bringing that franchise to where they were just a few seasons ago. The St. Louis Rams own 2 selections in the first round, so I think #1, they have to go with that offensive line. Jake Matthews makes a lot of sense, helping protect Sam Bradford, who quiet as kept wasn't bad and not the problem. I think they have their franchise guy in him. Give him protection. They started to incorporate a lot of the weapons that we saw them draft last season with Stedman Bailey, Tavon Dawson. This is a football team that's very close to making the playoffs, and bolstering that offensive line will help them get there in 2015 or 14. The Jaguars are in a tough spot right here at #3. They definitely need a quarterback, but you also have Jadeveon Clowney sitting there. That's like walking into the store and seeing white chocolate Oreos. You can't pass up on white chocolate Oreos. You may not see those again. So I think they take Jadeveon Clowney, bolster that defensive line. You have a defensive head coach and Gus Bradley. And the good thing about this mock draft, I can do what I want. I can dictate the terms. So I have them getting a quarterback in the 2nd round. So you just have to wait and see. But they have to take Clowney, one of the best defensive prospects in this draft. The Cleveland Browns are another club that owns 2 first-round selections. I think they address their quarterback situation with the #1 pick in Johnny Manziel. Forget what everyone is saying. This is a guy that has the skill to play at the next level, definitely has the talent. Reminds me a lot of Colin Kaepernick when he came out of Nevada. Strong arm, mobility. He's going to help this Browns franchise get into the playoffs in 2014. Next up are the Oakland Raiders, and I think they have their quarterback of the future in Terrell Pryor, but they have to add talent around him right now. That offense lacks playmakers. In comes Sammy Watkins at 6'1", 215 out of Clemson. Reminds me a lot of Cordero Patterson and what he brings to the table as a runner, as a receiver, as a returner. That's instant offense. You put this on the field with Terrell Pryor, he's definitely going to look a lot better in 2014 than what he did in 2013. The Falcons have to bolster their offensive line, so they take one of the best young tackle prospects in the draft, Greg Robinson out of Auburn, a redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 325. This guy excels in the running game. So anytime you can run weak side, you're going to do fine as the offense because your running game is now balanced. His pass protection will come in time, but that's the benefit of getting a redshirt sophomore into your program. He's going to grow into what you want him to be down the line. The Bucs have a new head coach in Lovie Smith, and you have to think he's going defense, right? Right. That's why you go with Anthony Barr out of UCLA, a guy that reminds me a lot of Brian Urlacher and what he brings to the table as far as athleticism is concerned. 6'4", 250, can play all 3 linebacker spots, and just gives Lovie Smith a lot of versatility to utilize him in that defense to go along with Levante David. The Vikings are another team that need quarterback help, but they also have a need at linebacker, and you can't pass up on Khalil Mack. That's like finding the blue elephant. You have to take a picture. You have to bring it home. So you can get a quarterback in round 2. You come away with one of the best edge rushers, one of the best linebackers in the country, a guy that can put his hand in the dirt and be a defensive end, can also drop back in coverage. Big fan of his game. I think he'll do fine in Minnesota. Next up are the Buffalo Bills, and they have to continue to add weapons around young quarterback E.J. Manuel. So you bring in tight end Eric Ebron, one of the best pass catchers in the country at 6'4", 245, with the explosiveness to flank out wide, and is an instant matchup against any linebacker or safety. So this would be a great addition to that Bills offensive attack. Center Dominic Raiola played his best football of his career last year for Detroit, but I think they have to upgrade even better with Tyler Lawson out of Utah State. Here's a guy 6'4", 312, consensus All-American 2 years in a row. Very underrated player. I think he's one of the best centers in the country. He was my preseason #1 center entering this college football season. Will he go here? Probably not. I think this is definitely a guy they should consider in this draft at some point. At number 11, we have the Tennessee Titans, who also need a quarterback, but again, I'm going to wait till round 2. I'm going to give them an outstanding pass rusher in Coney Ely out of Missouri, 6'5", 275. You can line him up anywhere along that defensive line, and he's going to wreak havoc. I think he'll fit in perfectly with whomever's going to be the head coach down there in Tennessee. Next up are the New York Giants, and as I'm making this video, Eli Manning just got sacked one more time, so I think they have to upgrade their offensive line with a versatile player in Zach Martin out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 308, can play guard or tackle, definitely feels the need for that Giants front five. Next up are the Rams with their second first-round pick, and I'm going to double down on that offensive line. Gabe Jackson is an outstanding offensive lineman at guard, 6'3", 340 pounds. I can get out there right now and rush for 1,500 yards behind Gabe Jackson. I think he'll do a great job on the inside. Now they've solidified this offensive line. Now Bradford has the time to get the ball to those weapons out there on the flanks. This will be a dangerous Rams offense in 2014. The Chicago Bears need help on the back end at the safety position, and Calvin Pryor can not only knock the stuffing out of a receiver and knock the paint off a helmet, he can also play the ball well when it's in the air, and that's what's sorely needed out there in Chicago, a player with ball skills on the back end that also can come up and lay the lumber on a receiver over the middle. I believe it's an understatement to say that the Steelers need help up front, so Antonio Tiny Richardson out of Tennessee, 6'6", 327, I think can play left or right tackle. Either way, they need the help up front for Pittsburgh, and I think this would be a great fit, and yes, I do like him over Cyrus Kouandjio out of Alabama. He's a much better football player, and that's why I have him going right here at number 15 to Pittsburgh. The Ravens have to upgrade their receiving core, and I think Mike Evans will help them out tremendously. Now you're able to slide Torrey Smith down to number 2 and Malcolm Brown to number 3. Evans is a guy that reminds me a lot of Vincent Jackson, and also has the ability to line up inside in the slot or even on the outside, so that versatility gives you a lot of creativity in your offense. I think this is going to upgrade that passing game out there in Baltimore as a whole. The only other team that needed help at safety as bad as the Chicago Bears were the Dallas Cowboys, which is why I have them taking Clinton Dix out of Alabama. Great ball skills and tremendous range from sideline to sideline, 6'1", 208. He's a junior. He's coming out early. I think this instantly upgrades their talent on the back end. Next up are the New York Jets, and they need playmakers badly on that offensive side of football to help out their young quarterback Geno Smith. That's why I believe Odell Beckham Jr. makes a ton of sense. He can help you out as a receiver, as a returner, and also as a runner on end of rounds. And when you look at his skill set, reminds me a lot of Victor Cruz that plays for the Giants. And I think this will help Geno Smith out in year 2, make tremendous strides as a quarterback. We have to rebuild the Dolphins' offensive line for Ryan Tannehill, which is why I think Taylor Lewan out of Michigan makes a lot of sense. 6'7", 315, long arms, tremendous athlete, and quietly, he didn't give up a sack all season long. That's music to the ears of Ryan Tannehill, which is why I believe Lewan makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins here at number 19. Next up at number 20 are the Arizona Cardinals, and I have them taking a young quarterback in Derek Carr out of Fresno State, 6'3", 215 pounds with a cannon for a right arm. And as well as Carson Palmer has played this season for the Arizona Cardinals, leading them to a 10-6 record and on the brink of the playoffs, he's also the reason why they missed the playoffs, those costly interceptions. So I think it's time you get younger, you get better, get more athletic, and that's why I believe Carr makes a lot of sense for Bruce Arians and Cardinals offense. I believe C.J. Mosley will make an ideal selection for the Green Bay Packers. Here's a guy that can play inside or outside. His football IQ is off the charts. He's a tremendous leader, and I love the way he can play both the run as well as the pass. 3-down linebacker, you don't have to take him off the field, but you can take A.J. Hawk off the field and replace him with C.J. Mosley and be a lot better defensively. I believe the Eagles add depth and talent in their secondary on the corners with Darquez Dennard out of Michigan State. Here's a guy, 5'11", 197, tremendous ball skills, scrap. He can play either coverage. He can play off as well as he can play tight man press. That right there is what you want on the back end of an aggressive style defense. I think he'll do fine out there in Philly. At number 23, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think they addressed the receiver position by taking MARQISE out of USC. Tremendous playmaker again. Another guy that definitely played a lot of football as a youth. You can tell by the little nuances he has as a receiver, knowing how to get off bump press, knowing how to use his elbow to get that subtle push off, and he's explosive. I think that right there upgrades the talent level of that Chiefs offense and makes him that much more dynamic in 2014. The Bengals have to get younger and more athletic at cornerback, and I think Jason Verrett fits that perfectly. Here's a guy out of TCU, 5'10", 175. Ignore his size. He's a big-time playmaker and also has the ball skills to come away with those turnovers. I think that right there instantly helps out that Bengals defense and allowing them to match up well versus these teams with 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. At number 25, we have the San Diego Chargers, and I think they go with the guard, CYRIL Richardson. Team him up next to DJ Fluker, last year's first-round selection, and now they're fine along that offensive line. I think they struggle on the inside, clearing lanes for the running back and also protecting Phillip Rivers, and Richardson's the guy that can excel on both ends of offense, both pass protection as well as run blocking. This would be a great fit for San Diego. The Browns are back up on the clock with their second first-round selection. I think now is the time they address the running back position and get explosiveness out of the backfield with Lake Seastrunk out of Baylor, 5'10", 205. Reminds me a lot of Napoleon Kaufman that played for the Oakland Raiders. You team him up next to Johnny Manziel. Now things look a lot better in Cleveland offensively. The Saints have to continue to add depth and talent in the secondary, and I think LaMarcus Joyner would be an ideal fit for Rob Ryan in that aggressive 3-4 defense that sometimes utilize a 3-3-5. You get a guy that can play corner or safety, but he's another one of these football players that plays defense that always has the football in his hands. That's exactly what you want on that side of the ball. Reminds me a lot of Tyrann Mathieu that plays for the Arizona Cardinals. I had the Patriots taking defensive tackle Rashid Hageman out of Minnesota at 6'6", 311. Has a lot of Richard Seymour-like ability when he's motivated, and if anyone can motivate him, it will be Bill Belichick. Here's a guy that can play the 1-tech. He can play the nose. He can also play a 5-tech, so he gives you that versatility up front along your defensive line. The Patriots have to get younger and athletic up front. That's why I believe this is an ideal fit for New England. The Carolina Panthers have to continue to add quality weapons around Cam Newton and better options in the passing game, which is why Jarvis Landry makes a lot of sense right here for Carolina. Here's a guy that by far has the best hands in the country. That's not even a debate. This guy can catch everything. Reminds me a lot of Chris Carter. So I think getting a guy that can come in and learn from Steve Smith helps out this Panthers offense, and he will just continue to grow along with Cam Newton and the rest of those young stars they have offensively. Justin Smith can't play forever, so I think the 49ers address their defensive line with Stephon Tuitt out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 303. Has fallen a little bit this year, but this is a guy that still has first-round talent. I think this will be a steal right here for San Francisco if they're able to get the young superstar out of Notre Dame. I think the Broncos go with the defensive side of the football in the first round. Adding Justin Gilbert out of Oklahoma State could help kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Helps him out as a returner, although they don't need it. They have Trenton Holiday, but he definitely has that skill set and also has ball skills, and he's explosive, and I think he'll do a great job in off-man coverage where he can react, make a play on the ball, and then take it to the house. So that's why I believe this was an ideal fit for Denver at number 31. The Seahawks get better by adding a young, talented player at tight end in Jace Amaro out of Texas Tech, another one of these new age tight ends that you can flex out wide or line him up in a slot as a receiver. I think he'll do fine playing out in the Northwest with Russell Wilson. Now let's move over to the second round of my mock draft and look at the 33rd selection with the Houston Texans taking defensive tackle Louis Nix III out of Notre Dame, 6'2", 345. And this will be sort of a steal for both the Texans, the Redskins, and even the Browns. All 3 guys preseason carried first-round grades going in, and all were my preseason #1 players at their position. James Hurst got hurt in the bowl game. Anthony Sean had dealt with injuries over the course of the season. So I think getting these guys right here at the top of the second round would be steals and would just help out their football team get a lot better in 2014. But at number 36, I have the Oakland Raiders taking DeAnthony Thomas out of Oregon, 5'9", 175. Don't let the size fool you. This guy can be a feature back at the next level. Warrick Dunn was 5'9", 178 and rushed for over 10,000 yards in his career. DeAnthony Thomas is a faster version of Warrick Dunn, so you put him in that backfield with Terrell Pryor, and also now you've added Sammy Watkins. The offense will look a lot better in 2014. At number 37, I have the Falcons addressing their defensive line with Scott Crichton out of Oregon State, a guy that can also play an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense, so they can get creative with how they utilize him. And the Bucs add weapons for their offense for their young quarterback Mike Glennon. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, a big-time playmaker out of Washington. The Jaguars, Vikings, and Titans all get those quarterbacks that I promised you that they were going to get in round 2. Blake Bortles probably will go in round 1, but he's a tremendous player. I think he will do fine in Jacksonville. A.J. McCarron, don't worry about a lot of the physical attributes you hear about a player, arm strength and things of that nature. I think A.J. McCarron will do just fine. You don't need superstars at the quarterback position. You just need someone to not make mistakes with the football and keep you on the plus side of the chains. I think he'll do a great job operating off play action in Minnesota. And Jeff Matthews, do I think he'll go in the second round? No. If I'm picking for the Titans, yes, he would. This is a player at 6'4", 225 that has the arm to go with that offense. You look at the weapons that they have. A lot of guys that can stretch the football vertically down the field. And I think that's what they have to get, a quarterback that has that arm to reach those guys downfield. I think Jeff Matthews would be an ideal fit in that Titans offense. And the Bills come away with a steal in D Ford, another player that played defensive end in college with tremendous pass rushing ability out of Auburn, 6'2", 240 pounds. And at number 43, the Giants finally addressed their linebacker position with Kyle Van Noy out of BYU, who I think should go in the first round at 6'3", 245. Tremendous player, 3-down linebacker, can play all 3 spots as well, excels on both ends of defense, both stop and run, and also in pass coverage. He's a big play threat waiting to happen, and that's what they sorely need on the defense side of football. They have to upgrade the athleticism and the playmaking ability at the linebacker spot. And at number 44, I have the St. Louis Rams also addressing the linebacker position with Ryan Shazier, a tremendous athlete out of Ohio State at 6'2", 230 pounds. The Lions get better at wide receiver with Allen Robinson out of Penn State, 6'3", 210. Reminds me a lot of Stevie Johnson, so I think he'll be an ideal number 2 or number 3 at the next level. The Bradley Roby selection will be a great fit for Pittsburgh. Team him up next to Ike Taylor, bring him in as a guy that can play nickel, also in the slot, and also is a very good run defender. And I'm a big fan of Aaron Donald and what he brings to the table as a disruptive force on the inside. Will be an ideal 3 technique for that Cowboys defense. You look at strong safety Deone Buchanan, one of the rare strong safeties that actually has coverage skills and also ball skills, and that's what they need on the back end in their secondary. And the Jets double down on wide receivers again. They have to continue to add talent and playmakers around Geno Smith, and when you team up Brandon Cooks out of Oregon State along with Odell Beckham, you have instantly upgraded your receiving core. And I believe the Dolphins can get better as well at the receiver spot with Devontae Adams out of Fresno State, Derek Carr's number 1 option at 6'2", 210 pounds. At number 51, I have the Chicago Bears taking Pierre Desir out of Lindenwood, which is a Division II program, 6'1", 205. And here's a player that reminds me a lot of Charles Tillman, who I played with at the University of Louisiana and who should be a future Hall of Famer for Chicago at that position. And you look at his skill set, long arms, tremendous footwork, great hips, fluid, and has the football IQ. So I think this is a player that definitely is going to rise up the draft boards as we move closer to May. But keep an eye on him because this will be an ideal fit for Chicago. At number 52, I have the Cardinals adding another playmaker in the secondary with Kyle Fuller out of Virginia Tech. They just make fine defensive backs coming out of that program in Blacksburg. And the Packers take a unique talent in A.C. Leonard, the former Florida Gator that transferred to Tennessee State. And if you like Jermichael Finley, you'll love A.C. Leonard. He doesn't drop the football. He's consistent, and he should be a great player in that Packers offense. Will he go in round 2? Probably not, but he's going to run like a 4-4. So I think this guy definitely will rise up the draft boards. The Eagles get explosive with wide receiver Paul Richardson out of Colorado. The Bengals get a steal, in my opinion, with Will Sutton out of Arizona State, similar to what a guy in Aaron Donald does for Pitt. He did for Arizona State. Should be a great fit alongside Geno Atkins in their sub package. And you look at San Francisco getting a big time playmaker in Kelvin Benjamin, a huge wide receiver at 6'5", 235. The Chargers adding cornerback depth with E.J. Gaines out of Missouri. You have to like that talent right there. And the Saints getting a tremendous playmaker off the edge in Vic Beasley out of Clemson, who's probably going to be an outside linebacker at the next level in the 3-4 defense at 6'2", 235 pounds. And rounding out the second round, starting with the 59th selection, the Indianapolis Colts get better on the interior offensive line with Weston Richburg, who probably is another one of these first round caliber players players at 6'4", 300 pounds out of Colorado State. The 49ers add depth in the secondary with PRYOR out of Florida, a tremendous athlete, can also help you out as a returner. The Panthers get better at the cornerback spot with Aaron Colvin out of Oklahoma. Played a lot of football, a 4-year starter for the Sooners. And I believe the Patriots have to address the tight end position with C.J. Fedorowicz out of Iowa. Wasn't utilized a lot as a receiver, but I think he could blossom into that at the pro level. And the Broncos get better with adding tackle Cyrus Kouandjio out of Alabama. And the Seahawks close out the second round, adding a big-time talent at 6'6", 220-pound receiver in Brandon Coleman that reminds me a lot of Plaxico Burress.